You know, I used to think the cruelest sentence a man could hear from his wife was, "We need to talk." Turns out there's a worse one. "I want you to disappear." But let's rewind a bit. We'd been married 9 years, not 10. She made a point to correct people on that. "Almost 10?" she'd say, with the same enthusiasm you'd use for a dentist appointment. "Romance, huh?" Things between us were lukewarm, like leftover coffee microwaved for the third time. Not boiling, not ice cold, just that weird temperature where you're not sure if it's safe or sad. We weren't screaming at each other, we just stopped being people. I was a presence, a shadow with a paycheck, and she was, well, distant, polished, performing a role. Wife, in air quotes. I was still trying. Stupidly, naively, annoyingly trying. That's why, 1 week before her birthday, I thought I'd ask. You know, to make her feel special. Bring back a spark. So we're sitting at the kitchen table. I'm making her tea because apparently coffee brings out her anxiety. But I suspect it was just one more thing to hate me for. She's scrolling on her phone, probably reading about crystal energy or how Mercury's retrograde is responsible for her mood swings. I slide the mug over and say with my best thoughtful husband voice, "So, your birthday's coming up. What do you want?" She doesn't even look up, just sips. Then calmly, like she's ordering takeout, "I want you to disappear." I laugh, because that's what you do when your wife jokes like a serial killer. But she doesn't laugh, doesn't even blink. "Wait, what?" "I want you gone. Not dead, just out of my life. For my birthday, I want space, freedom, air." And I sit there, holding a spoon, wondering if I should stir the tea or just stab myself with it and save her the trouble. Now, I could have argued. I could have begged, yelled, cried, all that emotional fireworks crap, but something in me just turned off, like a breaker flipped. You ever feel that? That quiet click in your soul when you stop trying? I nodded, like a waiter taking a weird order. One vanished husband coming right up. She didn't even flinch, didn't ask what I meant, just went back to scrolling. She thought I'd cry. She really did. You could see it in her face, that smug little expectation that I'd break down right there at the table, clutching my chest like a man in a soap opera. That I'd say, "Please don't say that. We can fix this. I'll change. I'll be better." Instead, I picked up her half-eaten kale and regret salad, walked to the sink, and calmly started rinsing the plate. "Seriously?" she said behind me. "What?" I asked over the sound of the faucet. "You said you wanted me gone? I'm just finishing the dishes first." There was a pause. Long one. She wasn't used to me not folding. That silence. It felt like I'd slapped her with a silk glove and challenged her to a duel. "You're not going to say anything? No drama? No fight? Oh, you want drama? I can throw a cucumber at the wall if you'd like. Really drive the moment home." She blinked. That threw her off. I could tell. She expected a meltdown, not a man who suddenly stopped caring whether the candles on her Himalayan salt lamp were aligned properly. I went upstairs without another word. Not storming, not slamming doors, just casually strolling, like I was heading up to floss. And that's where I did my real work. Not on my teeth. On the exit. I sat in the guest room, her manifestation space, because apparently calling it the room where you avoid your husband lacked spiritual branding, and opened my laptop. Step 1, bank accounts? Let me tell you something about modern marriage. If you're the one who handles the bills, you have all the leverage and none of the trophies. I'd been depositing into our joint account for 9 years like a good little ATM with a beard. But I also had a quiet little savings account in my name only because I believe in miracles. And in backups. Transferred half the joint funds with a few clicks. Enough to be fair, but also enough to say, I'm not the one who's going to end up crowdfunding their midlife crisis. Step 2, the apartment. Here's a fun fact. Only my name was on the lease. I was the sole renter. I furnished it, paid every utility, and even bought the stupid oversized rug she insisted on, the one that tied the room together, but mostly just tripped me twice a week. She never bothered to notice who actually signed the checks. She just assumed things worked because she set the energy right, the energy of my credit card. Step 3. Lawyer. I had the name of a guy a friend recommended, just in case. Back then, I thought he was being cynical. Now, the man was a prophet. I shot him an email. Hi, quick question. What's the legal process for granting someone the birthday wish of never seeing my face again? I hit send and closed the laptop. Then I slept. And I don't mean tossing and turning while staring at the ceiling and thinking about what went wrong. I mean slept. The next morning I made pancakes, from scratch, with blueberries. Not because she liked them, she didn't. She said gluten made her spirit heavy, whatever the hell that means. I made them for me, because I deserved pancakes, and because eating carbs in defiance of passive aggression is the most satisfying rebellion known to man. She walked into the kitchen, hair in a towel, sipping her overpriced almond milk, whatever. Froze mid-step. "You're still here?" I smiled, calm, collected, dangerous. "Of course. You said you wanted me gone for your birthday, right? That's in 6 days. I'm just a man of my word. I don't rush gifts." She stared at me like I'd just started speaking Latin. "You're seriously going to hang around until then? Like nothing happened?" "Oh, no, not like nothing happened. Like everything happened. I'm just savoring it." She tried to come up with something sharp to say, but all that came out was a huff and a muttered emotional stuntedness before she grabbed her yoga mat and left. Me? I had 6 days to plan the most elegant disappearing act this side of Houdini. She wanted space. She was about to get a void so wide, even her ego couldn't fill it. And she was going to regret asking for freedom without reading the fine print. Let me tell you something about being told to disappear. It's not an insult. It's an opportunity. For 6 days, I lived in the house like a polite poltergeist. I cooked, cleaned, paid bills, answered work emails, watered her plants, which were dying anyway, despite her saying they liked being neglected. But emotionally, I was already on a beach somewhere, drinking piña coladas with peace of mind and self-respect. Meanwhile, she pranced around like I'd become a ghost in my own home, closing her laptop when I walked in, humming with suspicious energy, smiling at her phone like it just confessed its love. I didn't ask questions. I didn't dig. Until the universe handed me a shovel. It was Tuesday morning. I was walking past the bedroom toward the laundry room when I heard her voice. Loud. Too loud. She was on a call. Speakerphone. With her best friend Kayla, aka High Priestess of Bad Advice. I wasn't eavesdropping. That implies intention. I was walking. The walls are thin. Not my fault. Kayla's voice came through clearly, nasal and theatrical as always. "Well, I just hope he doesn't find out about your yoga classes." I froze mid-step. Yoga? She goes to the gym. A specific one. 3 times a week. At hours that always conveniently overlapped with my late meetings. My stomach twisted, not in shock, more like confirmation. You know that moment when the puzzle pieces click into place and suddenly the picture is a dumpster fire? Yeah, that. My wife laughed. Relax. He doesn't notice anything unless it's on fire or on sale. I stood there, silent, holding a towel in a marriage I was done folding. That night, I did something I swore I'd never do. I checked her laptop. I didn't snoop. I scanned, quickly, calmly, like I was sorting receipts before tax season. And there it was, a chat thread, marked K because nothing says innocent like a damn kiss emoji. He's just there, like furniture with a beard. Don't feel bad. You've outgrown him. After your birthday, it's just us, finally. No nudes, no declarations of eternal lust, just something worse. Intimacy, emotional, deliberate, rehearsed. She didn't just fall for someone. She planned the landing. So yeah, I sat down, took a deep breath, and opened my laptop. Not to write an angry email, to prepare my exit, quietly, precisely, permanently. First, the bank accounts. Half of everything, not a penny more. I may be a gentleman, but I'm not a moron. Second, the apartment. Only my name on the lease, only my name on the Wi-Fi. She never paid attention to that. But she'd soon learn that Netflix doesn't stream betrayal for free. Third, the movers. 8 a.m. sharp, 2 guys, 1 truck, 1 glorious tagline. We move fast so you can move on. I booked a storage unit. Found a new place. Clean, quiet, zero sage or lava rock bracelets in sight. And then came the gift box. Black, matte, classy. Inside, 1 neatly stacked bundle of divorce papers. Filed, signed, stamped, with a yellow sticky note that read, "You said you wanted freedom. Consider it granted, legally, emotionally, and completely. No metaphors, just paper, ink, and closure." The night before her birthday, she was on the couch, texting with her yoga classes. I walked into the kitchen, set the box down gently. "Happy birthday," I said. She looked up, confused. "What is this?" "Your wish. Delivered early. Don't open it until morning." And just like that, Operation Disappearance was complete. You ever watch one of those scenes where a person opens a gift box and finds something they weren't ready for? A ring, a love letter, or, if you're really lucky, a legal notice. Now imagine that box contains divorce papers, filed, signed, neatly clipped, with a sticky note that says, "You said you wanted freedom. Consider it granted, legally, emotionally, and completely." That's what I left on the kitchen counter the morning of her birthday. But let's rewind just a few hours. I woke up at 5:30 a.m., not because I had to, because I wanted to be gone before she opened her eyes. There's a kind of peace in early morning silence. No fake smiles, no hollow good mornings, just birds, empty streets, and the click of boxes being taped shut. The movers arrived at 6:45. 2 guys, tattoos, energy drinks, 0 questions. Professionals. They packed with surgical precision. By 8:15, the apartment looked like the set of a breakup-themed IKEA commercial. Empty walls, bare counters. 1 lonely yoga mat still rolled up like a forgotten tortilla. I took 1 last walk through. The framed photo of us in Mexico? Gone? The stupid ceramic owl she bought at that overpriced spiritual market? Left it. That thing always creeped me out. Everything that mattered to me was already out the door. And then came the final touch. I took the black matte gift box and placed it dead center on the kitchen island. Nothing else. No perfume-sprayed letter. No emotional mess. Just law, logic, and a whole lot of closure. Then I took my keys off my key ring and left them on top of the box. No door slam, no dramatic final stare. Just a man walking away from a fire he didn't start, but refused to die in. At 9:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. Straight to voicemail. 30 seconds later, a text. "Is this some kind of joke?" I smiled. 30 minutes later, another one. "What am I supposed to do with this?" Oh, the irony. The woman who asked me to disappear was now demanding instructions for how to live without me. Then came the more frantic ones. "We were just in a rough patch." "You're seriously doing this? On my birthday? You're making this about you." Wow. Really mature. Yeah, super mature. I filed legal documents instead of flipping the table. That's called growth. She expected a tantrum, a confrontation. She thought I'd spiral. Instead, I evolved. I didn't reply. I turned off the phone, tossed it in the glove box, and kept driving. The highway stretched ahead like a giant reset button. I blasted music. Windows down, heart light. That afternoon, I got myself a real birthday lunch. Steak, whiskey, silence. No kale, no candles, no guests with names like Moonbeam or Raincloud. Just me and a well-cooked reminder that peace tastes better than resentment. Later that evening, I posted one photo on my socials. A sunset over the city skyline. No face, no caption, just 3 words. Gone. As requested. No hashtags, no pity. Just a quiet statement of completed service. And apparently, that's what broke her. Because the next morning, she showed up. In person. At my new place. Wearing the same face she used when she didn't get her order right at a restaurant. A mix of disbelief, entitlement, and mild confusion at how reality works. You know what happens when a woman like her doesn't get the reaction she wants? She doesn't reflect. She doesn't question. She builds a sympathy task force and sends it into battle. That night, her birthday night, the one where I granted her wish to disappear. I was sitting on the couch in my new place, legs kicked up, bourbon in hand, watching a movie with no emotional value whatsoever. Explosions, car chases, testosterone, the kind of film she used to call visual junk food. I was exactly where I wanted to be, in a place with no mood lighting, no incense, and no one asking me to talk about my vibrations. Until the phone rang. Unknown number. I let it ring. Then another call. Different number, same area code. Then another. By the fourth, I figured someone either died or was about to try emotionally reviving a situation they didn't understand. I picked up. Is this Owen? Great. Her dad. A voice like a rusty lawnmower and twice as pleasant. Yup, I said, calm as bourbon. What the hell is going on? He snapped. You left her? On her birthday? I sipped my drink and stared at the paused screen. Mid-car explosion. She told me she wanted me to disappear, so I did. Pretty efficient gift, wouldn't you say? Don't get smart with me, son. She's devastated. She's crying. Says you blindsided her with divorce papers and vanished. Ah, so she skipped the part where she asked for this. How very convenient. He made some noise that sounded like a dying bulldog and hung up. 10 minutes later, the phone rang again. Her mother. Her voice was softer, but twice as passive-aggressive. Sweetheart, I know things haven't been perfect, but on her birthday? The irony's not lost on me. She said you humiliated her, that you made a public show of it. Public? Ma'am, I left a sealed box and quietly exited the building. That's not humiliation, that's customer service. She's saying you left her with nothing. She's got the apartment and the owl statue, and I presume the guy from yoga class. So, not nothing. Silence. You could almost hear the gears grinding behind her eyes. I think you two should talk. Oh, we did. She said she wanted freedom. I gave it to her. It's not my fault she didn't read the fine print. Click, another hang-up. They love their dramatic exits, that family. But they weren't done. Within the next hour, I got a call from her cousin Lindsay, who once tried to sell me essential oils at a funeral. A message from a mutual friend who hadn't spoken to me in 2 years but suddenly had concerns about my emotional maturity. And a voicemail from Kayla, yes, the same Kayla whose voice I heard through the bedroom speakerphone. Her voicemail started with, "Okay, look, I'm not picking sides, but..." Which of course means she absolutely was. "You could have handled this more respectfully," she said. "You didn't have to be cruel." Cruel, not cheating, not lying, not stringing someone along while planning an escape. Cruel, for honoring her request. By 11 p.m. I turned off my phone, tossed it in the kitchen drawer, and poured another drink. The silence in my apartment was beautiful. Not just lack of sound, but the total absence of tension. No staged sighs, no judgmental looks, no spiritual posturing wrapped around emotional neglect. Just me, a drink, and a new beginning. You know what struck me most? None of them, not one of them, asked why I left. They didn't ask what she did. Didn't ask if there was another side to the story. Because the moment someone cries first, they win the narrative, and she had the head start. But that's fine. Let her run with it. I had no interest in chasing public opinion. I wasn't playing for the crowd. I was playing for my peace. The next morning, I woke up at 7 a.m. without an alarm for the first time in years. No cold shoulder next to me, no guilt, No silence filled with loaded meaning. I made coffee. Real coffee. Not that gluten-free mushroom powder she claimed helped align her frequency. I sat down, took a deep breath, and for the first time in months, I smiled without needing permission. I was 3 days into my new life when the knock came. It was a quiet Saturday. I had the windows open, music low, fresh coffee brewing. There was a breeze, a real one. Not the metaphorical kind that gets mentioned in self-help books, an actual breeze with birds and light and the subtle scent of not being lied to. And then, knock, knock, knock. I opened the door, expecting a neighbor, a package, or maybe karma disguised as a Jehovah's Witness. Instead, her, wearing jeans, no makeup, and an expression she hadn't worn in years. Something between confused, defensive, and "you can't do this to me" rage. "Can we talk?" she asked, like this was just a casual run-in at the grocery store. "How did you find me?" I asked, still holding the door. She looked slightly embarrassed. "Trey told me." "Ah, Trey, one of my so-called friends, the kind of guy who doesn't want to get involved and then immediately gets involved. I should have known better than to tell him where I'd moved. I guess he thought he was playing peacekeeper, or maybe he just liked drama more than I realized. He said you were okay. I needed to see it for myself." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean you needed to see if I'd completely fallen apart?" She didn't deny it. "Look," she started. "I know how it sounded. What I said, but I didn't mean it like that." I leaned against the doorframe, calm, detached. "You mean the part where you said you wanted me to disappear? Or the part where you were planning your post-birthday life with a guy who thinks I'm a piece of furniture?" She winced. "I was venting. Kayla twists things." "I heard you myself. Remember? Speakerphone, laundry room. You were very clear." She bit her lip. Classic move when she knew she had nothing. "I was overwhelmed. You were always so detached." I nodded. I was detached because every time I tried to connect, I got told I was too much, too quiet, too loud, too this. Not enough that. I never said, "You didn't have to," you just sighed. Every day. For years she looked around my apartment, like maybe it would give her clues about how to win this conversation. "So, this is where you live now?" "Yep." "Peaceful, huh? No crystals, no sage smoke, no judgment. It's cold." "It's quiet. That's what cold people call peace." She crossed her arms, defensive now. "So that's it? You're just done? You made the decision, I just printed it on paper. You blindsided me. I gift-wrapped it." She went quiet for a moment. I could tell she didn't expect me to be this calm. She expected anger, begging, a tearful, "We can still fix this." Instead, she got a man who'd already buried the relationship and built a patio over the grave. "I never thought you'd actually go through with it," she admitted. "Yeah, funny thing about men like me. We're slow to leave, but once we do, you won't find us standing at the door." She tried again, softer now. "We were together 9 years. 8 years and 11 months. You always made sure to correct people." "Owen." "No," I said, cutting her off. "You said you wanted space, now you have a galaxy." There was a silence, heavy but not sad. She knew. This wasn't a performance. This wasn't a threat. This was done. She looked at me for another long second, then turned to leave. No tears, no hug, just a defeated walk to her car. She didn't look back, and I didn't shut the door until she drove off. Not for her, for me. That night, I slept better than I had in years. And in the morning I made breakfast and played music. And smiled. Because there's something beautiful about silence, when you've earned it. A few weeks later, I got invited to a backyard barbecue. Trey's house, ironically, the same friend who leaked my location like a broken faucet. I almost said no. I didn't feel like pretending to like lukewarm beer and small talk about crypto. But then I thought, why not? Let's test this new version of me in the wild. See if he plays well with others. So I went. It was the usual crowd. Guys who talk too loud about nothing, women who bring store-bought salad in a mason jar and call it homemade, and one guy in flip-flops with strong opinions about charcoal. I grabbed a beer, leaned against the deck railing, and exhaled. I wasn't anxious. I wasn't scanning the crowd for judgment. I wasn't wondering if my partner was going to whisper something cutting in my ear. I was just there, present, untethered, free in the most boring, beautiful way. Somewhere between the burgers and Trey's weird grilled pineapple experiment, someone brought her up. Not in a dramatic way, just a harmless, slightly drunk curiosity. Hey, Owen, whatever happened with, her? I took a sip of beer, looked out at the sky. It was the kind of sunset that makes you feel like the universe is winking at you. Oh, I said casually. She asked for a birthday gift. They leaned in. Yeah? She wanted me to disappear. Pause. So I did. A few chuckled. One guy did a slow nod like I'd just handed him a new philosophy. Damn, someone muttered. Cold. Nah, I said, smiling. She wanted freedom. I just made it official. And that was it. No long story, no complaints. Just a quiet man in a hoodie, holding a beer, finally done carrying weight that was never his to begin with. Sometimes revenge is loud. Sometimes it's dramatic. And sometimes it's just not answering the phone. The divorce went through without fireworks. No dramatic courtroom speeches. No tug of war over the furniture. She kept the apartment and her sacred crystals. I kept my peace. We haven't spoken since the day she left my doorstep. She unfollowed me everywhere. Blocked me, probably. Or maybe I blocked her. I honestly don't remember, and that's the best part. Life's quieter now. Coffee tastes better. Music hits harder. Silence no longer feels like punishment. It feels earned. And sometimes, when someone asks if I miss her, I say, only the silence that used to come between her words. Then I smile and move on.